our vitamin D3, and most especially because this is a new product that we've had in the market. And it's intriguing that everyone would want to know what it is about. So I am so excited to have you all here today. And tonight I want us to dive into this because it's something small but mighty in so many ways. Vitamin D3, the sunshine vitamin. Most people know it's know it's good for bones, but very few people truly understand how powerful it is, from boosting your immune system, improving your mood, balancing your hormones, and even protecting the heart. And by the end of this session, you will understand why D3 isn't just another supplement, it is a life essential. So settle in, grab that notebook that Fred has told you about, and let's explore how this golden vitamin can help us live healthier, stronger, and happier lives. So, um, to get us started, we'll talk about the history of vitamin D3. The first humans to learn about vitamin D3 discovered it over 4,000 years ago. And that is a very long time ago. And well, I was joking to myself that this must be the Nubiris or the ancient Egyptians and Greeks who documented about bone deformities like rickets in children back those many, many, many years ago. And they discovered it through diseases that are caused by deficiencies. For example, how we know about vitamin C is through scurvy or severe scurvy. That is how we got to learn that it is a vitamin deficiency. So the deficiency of vitamin C that caused scurvy in sailors is how we got to learn, or we got to understand or discover vitamin C. So consequently, it is the same for vitamin D. So now, in between 1919 and 1920, Sir Edward Mellanby from the UK induced rickets in dogs through diet, proving it was a nutritional deficiency. Mr. Elmer McCollum from the USA identified a fat soluble factor, initially called vitamin A, that prevented rickets. Later, he distinguished it as a new compound and he called it vitamin D. Now, in 1930, Adolf, a German, won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1928 for his work on sterols, including the structure of vitamin D, which composes D2 and D3. Then in 1932, you can see we are walking down history. In 1932, it was discovered that vitamin D2 could be obtained by irradiating ergosterol derived from plants and yeast, which is D2, and with ultraviolet light from the sun or artificial UV light. Later, it was found out that if you irradiate UV rays from the sun or artificial on the skin of vertebrates, it will produce vitamin D3. Then much later in 1965, between 1965 and 1970, the discovery of vitamin D's metabolic activation in the liver and in the kidneys happened. So that's a brief history to try and establish basis for how we came about vitamin D. Now, what are the sources of vitamin D? Well, before we talk about the natural sources, I'd like to mention that there are two types of vitamin D. We have the D2 and the D3. Now, vitamin D2 is called the egocalciferol, and it's mainly a plant source or mainly found in plants. D2 is not as active, but it is found mainly on yeast, on fungi. Well, on it, the sources are plant mainly, and we have mentioned that it happens when the compounds in fungi or yeasts are passed through or exposed to UV light, like sunlight, or artificial UV radiation, then they make up the vitamin D2. Now, synthetic production, often used in fortified foods and supplements, especially for vegan options. So, for people who are vegan, who do not consume animal products, they will be given the plant based vitamin D, which is the D2. Then we have the vitamin D3. If I can put it in layman language, D3 is much more powerful than D2. It is an animal based, or the sources are animal based, and it's scientifically known as the cholecalciferol. Its sources, like I've mentioned, animal based, and basically it's skin synthesis. That is the human skin or the vertebrates, that is the animals who produce vitamin D3 when they are exposed through the ultraviolet B rays of the sun, or even the artificial sources of UVB rays. Now, I'll mention UVB because we have the UVA and the UVB. So the UVB are the rays from the sun that cause you to have a sunburn, or they do not penetrate deep into your skin. The UVA rays are the rays that penetrate deeper into your skin, and they actually cause other problems, as I'll be explaining later on in this presentation. So the vitamin D3 sources could include dietary sources like fatty fish, e.g. the salmon fish, or the mackerel, or the sardines. And then also the egg yolk is a good source of vitamin D3, liver from beef, or cod liver oil. These are good sources of the D3, or the cholecalciferol vitamin D. Now, we move on and we look at the transformation of vitamin D in the human body. How does it now go about? How do we get vitamin D3, and what processes does it go through in our body? How is it integrated? How is it utilized before we can get to how it serves us, how it helps us? It's good to understand how the processes that it goes through when you consume it, or when you get it, or when it is manufactured in your body. What does it do? How is it stored? How does it react? So, from food sources, or whatever source that we may ingest or get vitamin D, if we are getting it, for example, from the dietary supplement, or we are getting it from food, or from the plant source, once it goes into your body, be it D2 or D3, it binds to a vitamin D binding protein that is called the DBP, and travels to the liver. Now, once you've consumed it, the first stage it will go to the liver. When it gets to the liver enzyme, that is the 2,5-hydroxylase, converts it into the 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D, or what is called the calcidiol. So the liver will first convert it into calcidiol, and this is the major circulating form of vitamin D, and the best indicator of vitamin D status in the blood test. If you're going to the hospital to take a test to check your vitamin D levels, what is tested is this calcidiol, or the vitamin D that has been released at the liver level. This is what is tested in your blood, and this procedure that happens at the liver is called the first hydroxylation. Then now from the liver, the calcidiol travels to the kidneys. That is this product, the vitamin D, which contains the hydroxin 2,5, travels to the liver, no, sorry, to the kidney from the liver. And when it gets to the kidneys, it will find another enzyme at the kidneys. And this 1 alpha hydroxylase enzyme at the kidneys will convert it into a 1,2,5 hydroxy vitamin D, dehydroxy vitamin D. This is now what is called the calcitriol. The one at the liver is called the calcidiol. It is what is tested in your blood when you go for a test. And then now when we go from that process, from the first hydroxylation process, we find that the kidney further on goes on to change or to metabolize this vitamin D into what we are calling the calcitriol. And this is now the active form of vitamin D, which is in the form of a hormone. And this is what is now active from your brain. The hormone vitamin D in your body is what we are calling the calcitriol. And this procedure is called the second hydroxylation. Now we have found how it travels to the body, how it gets broken down, the variants we have, what is tested in your blood as vitamin D is what is the calcidiol at the liver, and then now the hormone that is active in your body that takes part in controlling calcium, the immune system, and the moods and everything is what we are calling the calcitriol. Now we look at the natural sources of vitamin D. Now, from sunlight exposure on foods, and of course, basically, even on our skin, like we have mentioned, we generally can get sufficient vitamin D supply. So, sunlight is it's the main natural source and the most efficient source of vitamin D. The skin produces vitamin D3, which we have called the cholecalciferol, when exposed to the UVB rays from the sun. Here are the factors that promote optimal sunlight synthesis of vitamin D in our bodies. Factor number one that determines how the sun will be able to give us vitamin D3 is the time of day when you're getting exposed. And the best time, the most optimal time for you to consume or to make vitamin D3 in your body is at midday, from about 10 a.m. to about 3 p.m. If you are exposed to the sun at around that time, that's now when it's at maximum. That's when the UVB rays are at maximum, and that is the best time for you to make or to synthesize vitamin D3 from your skin. And this should happen if you expose your arms, if you expose, now this is a factor number two, the skin that you're exposing, or which part of your body are you exposing. Expose your arms, expose your legs, expose your back for about 10 to 30 minutes, depending on your skin tone. If you're darker, if you have more melanin, you have to expose for a longer period of time. If you are lighter and maybe you don't have much melanin, I can just quote the race. If you're a black person, if you're a Caucasian person, if you're a white person, if you're a white person or Caucasian person, you can expose less time. If you're a dark skinned person, a black person, you have to do it longer because melanin hinders the UV rays. So now, skin pigmentation, that's something else I have just mentioned. The darker the skin requires longer exposure because melanin blocks the UVB rays. And then, of course, another determinant is your age. Older adults produce less vitamin D from sunlight. So if you're elderly, maybe 65, 70, 75 years going forth, you need to expose yourself more. Now, there is now something else that I want to caution you. You see, when we are saying that you expose yourself from 10 a.m. to about 3 p.m., I want you to remember that this is the time when the sun is most harmful to the skin of a human being. While it is when we require the sun to give us vitamin D3, consequently, it is like a rose contains the thorns and of course the glory and the merit of being a rose. So it will give you the vitamin D3, yes, but it is also very dangerous because it will expose you to problems like the sunburn. It will expose you to even cancer. It is that dangerous because you could get skin cancer from the UVB rays. Now, that is why we advise people to use sunscreen when you expose yourself to the sun at that time. It doesn't chap your skin, burn your skin, or hurt you in any way. You use the sunscreen. But remember, again, another problem: sunscreen will hinder the production or the synthesis of the creation of vitamin D3. I'll be mentioning that in detail. Then another natural source of vitamin D3, when we walk away from now the sunlight, and now we get it from the sunlight naturally, we have fatty fish. Remember, it's not just fish, it has to be fatty fish. And I'll tell you why: because vitamin 3 is bound by fats. That is why, even when I'll be mentioning, when we take our D3 supplement, we ask you to consume some fatty meal, because vitamin D is bound by fats. So fatty fish like salmons and sardines are a very good natural source of vitamin D3. Um, and remember, this vitamin D3 is the most effective form of vitamin D3. And then another source is the egg yolk. The egg yolk, we get it from the egg, mayai. That's a good source of vitamin D. We also have the cod liver oil, a very good source. In fact, it contains a very large amount of vitamin D. We also have the beef liver, small amounts. It contains some small amounts of vitamin D3. And we also have fortified foods like milk, yogurt, cheese. They often contain the vitamin D3. Fortified means it has been added. So supplements also, like capsules, gummies, tablets. That's also another source. We also have what you've mentioned, the plant-based. Well, they contain D2, which is less potent. D3 is more potent. D2 less potent, but you'll get it from plant sources like mushroom. You also get it from fortified plant milk like soy milk, like almond milk, like oat milk. You also get it from fortified cereals and orange juice. That is why you see cereal like cornflakes and Weetabix. They'll write there that it contains vitamin D2. So D2 is not as potent as D3. Now, if all the above mentioned sources cannot supply you with vitamin D, you may always seek the help of a dietary supplement. Now, let's just look at something else: the daily recommended allowance of vitamin D. These are guidelines as to what your body requires, and this has been measured on what you need to give your body on a daily basis. And when we come here, I will mention now what is allowed. Yes, according to the World Health Organization guidelines, we have infants, that is children who are between ages 0 to 12 months. They require the 400 international units of vitamin D. Then there's children between ages 1 and 18 who require 600 units. Adults up to 70 years will require again 600 units per day. And then, of course, older adults, because we have said age is a factor. Your skin cannot synthesize vitamin D3 if you're advanced in age, so you require more. 800 international units, or IU. Then pregnancy or pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, they require more because they're consuming for two, so they require between 600 to 800 units. Now we look at the next slide. Now, why do we need vitamin D3 supplementation? Why does it matter? It seems that everyone is blessed with sufficient vitamin D because we are all, at one point or another, we are exposed to the sun. But the fact is that vitamin D deficiency has become a silent health crisis. It's affecting over 1 billion people world over. And despite its critical role in bone health, in immunity and disease prevention, low vitamin D levels are shockingly common across all age groups and regions. So, number one, here is why it matters. It reduced sun exposure. Most people, if you look at everyone, consider yourself included, because of our lifestyle today. If we look at the times that I have mentioned that we need to be exposed to the sun, we are keeping a more indoors like kind of lifestyle. So modern indoor lifestyle significantly limits the natural sunlight exposure and reduces the body's ability to produce vitamin D. For example, most people, you work maybe in an office or in a shop or wherever it is, and often the time you wake up in the morning, you go to your place of work, you spend the whole day indoors, and so by the time you're getting outside again is when you're leaving work, it's already late. So you miss the gap that your body should be exposed to give you enough vitamin D. And then consequently, besides that, we go on to use products that limit the production of vitamin D, because now you see everyone wants a skin routine that includes a sunscreen, and not just a sunscreen, but some people will even use a sunscreen product that contains SPF or sunproof factor that is very very high. And I think I'm a culprit when it comes to this, because my SPF, my sunscreen product contains 50 to 65 SPF factor. And this means that besides being a black person, I also put on a product that actually limits UVB rays from accessing my skin. This is good because it offers skin protection. We use sunscreen to protect ourselves from skin cancer, from skin problems that include aging, because the UV rays cause that kind of aging because of, well, the oxidative stress and what happens. So we use sunscreen to block up to 95% of UVB rays needed for vitamin D synthesis. So yet again, while we have the sunlight that is supposed to give us free vitamin D3, we block that from happening with the product that we use. And then another factor is the widespread deficiency. D3 or vitamin D is the deficiency is becoming common across all age groups, including children, including adults, and also the elderly. So this is why it matters, because while there are chances, or we may have the natural way of getting it, we are limited to that natural way. And like I said, even getting exposed to the sun like that may cause more harm than it may cause good. So we need to handle this matter. Now we look at diseases that are caused by vitamin D3 deficiency. And several musculoskeletal diseases are generally caused by vitamin D deficiency, ranging from bone disorders to chronic diseases. Number one, we see rickets in children. Low vitamin D3 intake causes impaired calcium or phosphate absorption, which in turn causes soft and weak bones. In children, severe vitamin D3 may cause rickets, which is characterized by symptoms like bow legs. You see those children who become bow legged, or those who have knocked knees. And this is very common when you have a child, you're told to expose that child to the sun immediately. And you see, when mothers give birth to children, they often go outside and bring the child outside, so that the sun can be able to create the vitamin D3 for the child to prevent these bow-legged or knocked knees or rickets or delayed growth. The child may have problems trying to reach milestones like walking or standing or sitting, because you need your bones to be strong for that. Some will even have a problem with having the stability of the neck. So you find the child is going towards 1 year and you have to support the neck. So this is basically lack of vitamin D3. And I have noticed that this is becoming very, very common, because I have met several clients now who are having these problems with newborn children, or the infants. And then bone pain and muscle weakness and a thickened. It's also characterized by bone pain, muscle weakness, and of course thickened wrist and ankles. You see a child who has some, I don't want to say fatty ankles and fatty wrist, but similarly, that is what happens. Then we also have another problem that is caused by vitamin D3. This is number two, osteomalacia in adults. This is basically rickets in adults. It is similarly like rickets in adults. So osteomalacia, vitamin D3 deficiency in adults may cause bone pain, especially the hips or the lower back. This is also something that is becoming very, very common, and especially in elderly people. And of course, it causes muscle weakness, whereby now someone is not able to sit, cannot sit without support, cannot stand without support. They need to be anchored, or you have to bring even a bed or a walking stool, something like that, to help them. Then number three, we have osteoporosis in adults. um, Osteoporosis in bones is, of course, another problem that is caused by lack of vitamin D3. Now, bone is a dynamic tissue that undergoes continuous remodeling, that is, breaking down and, of course, formation to maintain strength, to repair damage, and to regulate calcium levels. In adults, chronic vitamin D3 deficiency may cause reduced calcium absorption, which results in imbalances in this process. This can lead to osteoporosis, a gradual bone loss process which increases risk of fracture in hips, spine, and wrists. If you look at what is happening around us today, so many people are having the hip replacement surgery, knee replacement surgery, uh, uh, because their bone, the osteoporosis has eaten away the bones. And osteoporosis is where your bone matrix becomes large, or your bone loses its minerals, or if I can put it in a layman term to make you understand, ukiangalia kwa mfupa, for example, if you go to the butchery now ununue mifupa, maybe you want to go and make soup, ukiangalia mfupa upate uko na zile shimo shimo kubwa kubwa kubwa, that is a bone that symbolizes osteoporosis, because the bone matrix is big. But ukiangalia ule mfupa uko neat, tushimo tudogo 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 tudogo, the matrix is compact, so that bone does not contain osteoporosis. So that is what it means, and this means that vitamin D3 haijakuwa hapo isaidie calcium kushikilia ule mfupa, ndio ule mfupa usipanuke. So kama iko chini, kama the level of vitamin D3 iko chini, then it shows that mfupa wako utapoteza calcium and phosphorus and magnesium, all these minerals in the bones, na mfupa utaanza kuachilia ama kuenlarge. Then we also have another problem or disease caused by vitamin D3. This is the number four, the muscle weakness in adults. Muscle cells are vitamin D receptors. Besides vitamin D3 regulating protein synthesis, the mitochondrial function, and muscle fiber composition, the deficiency is strongly linked to proximal muscle weakness, to fatigue and pain, and particularly in the hips and thighs. And actually, it can even cause you to have muscle spasms, or what we call muscle pull. That is why you've seen whenever you meet someone who's complaining of having muscle pull, we advise to give them our calcium, because our calcium contains vitamin D3. So what we are really giving there is the D3 that is going to help to stop the muscle pulls, the muscle spasms, or even the pain. Now we look at the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency. Before taking any supplements, it's always recommended that you first check your body's vitamin D levels to determine if you are deficient. If your levels are normal, you can maintain them through daily sunlight exposure, like we've talked about. Now, taking Greenwald multivitamin tablets, which contains vitamin D and calcium. Also, using our spirulina plus capsule can help you to maintain your normal vitamin D levels. But if you take the test and you have a severe deficiency, or someone you may know may have a severe vitamin D3 deficiency, you may take Greenwald vitamin D3 capsule, because each of our capsule, of our vitamin D capsule, contains about 5,000 IU of vitamin D. Now, I have mentioned that, but before I go to that, I'll talk about the deficiency symptoms. One, if you feel or you've experienced weak and aching bones, muscle strength, you feel your muscle weak, and your muscle weakness can be shown through muscle loss, and also through the muscle pulls or the muscle spasms. Then frequent cough and colds, that's another symptom. You did not see that coming. Infections, frequently having recurring infections, is another symptom. Pale skin and dark circles. You look ghostly. You look like someone who is so tired. Fatigue, you're always constantly tired. If you feel sleepy, or you have what I call insomnia, sleep changes, or you're not able to find sleep or to sleep better at night. If you have mood swings, low moods, you just could be telling, or you could be having a symptom of deficiency of vitamin D. Also, back pain is another symptom. And then, of course, loss of appetite. You don't feel like you want to eat anything. That's a symptom. So now I've talked about why you'd need to use a vitamin D3. Said you first go for a checkup, get yourself checked to see if you already have enough, if you're lacking. But if you've checked any of these symptoms here, if you find that you have any of the above symptoms, especially if you have three or four overlapping, you really need to understand that you have deficiency in vitamin D3, and you need to check your vitamin D3 levels in the body. You need to maintain your health, because all these symptoms draw you to one problem, and one problem can bring so many problems in your body. And these are problems that you may not be aware of. And by the time you come to know what is happening, it's already too late. You're suffering from arthritis, you've lost your major joints, you need replacement surgeries, you spend a lot of money because of something that you could have prevented by supplementing the right vitamin when you had the right time. So, taking a spirulina capsule of vitamin multivitamin can help you maintain if your levels are normal. And then, if you have deficiency, you can use our vitamin D3 capsule. And because this capsule contains a very, very, very high potent, high level of vitamin D, 5,000 IU per capsule. And if you can go back to the dietary needs, we saw on average, an adult requires about 600. So this one tells you is for someone who is really deficient. And while supplementing, monitor your blood calcium and your vitamin D3 levels monthly to assess your body's response. Adjust dosage as needed to avoid potential risk from excessive intake. So, one capsule a day is enough for this product, even when you have severe cases. But keep checking on how your body responds to it so that you do not have excess of it. Health benefits of vitamin D3. What are the health benefits of vitamin D3? That is the cholecalciferol. It is essential for bone growth, mineralization, and maintenance at every stage of life, from the fetal development of a fetus to old age, and here is how it works. Number one, it ensures calcium absorption. Vitamin D3 activates calcium absorption in the small intestines, and then without D3, only 10 to 15% of your dietary calcium is absorbed. You can imagine. You can keep taking milk, you can keep taking, the dietary, the sources that we've mentioned, the egg, the milk, the fortified cereals, all this. But remember, if you don't have vitamin D3, the amount of calcium that will be absorbed from now your calcium sources, the soup, the milk, and all these other sources that you may have to supplement calcium in your body, only about 10 to 15% will be absorbed. That is a very small amount, especially since calcium is a major fuel in your body's functions. And then the dietary calcium is absorbed vis-a-vis when you take vitamin D3 or you have it in sufficiency, it will be absorbed at about 30 to 40% more times than when you don't have vitamin D3. Another benefit is that it promotes bone mineralization. D3 deposits calcium and phosphate into the bone matrix or the osteoid. When you have osteoporosis, take vitamin D3 alongside calcium, alongside your calcium and your magnesium, so that it can go and deposit that calcium and restore that bone matrix. Another benefit is that it regulates the parathyroid hormone. This is the PTH. Now, the PTH, or the parathyroid hormone, is the hormone that controls the supply of calcium in your blood. You see, when you lack calcium in your blood, what happens is that your parathyroid hormone is secreted and it signals the bones to release calcium. The calcium that your bone is holding on to will be signaled by the PTH. It will be released into your bloodstream. Consequently, if you have excess calcium in your bloodstream, the parathyroid hormone again sucks up or takes up that calcium and stores it back to the bones. Now, you see, if you don't have sufficient vitamin D3, the correlation is this: if your vitamin D3 is low, your body will secrete the parathyroid hormone in high dosage, or a lot of it will be secreted so that it can command the bones to release calcium. And what happens when the bones release calcium is you suffer osteoporosis. The reserves that you had for calcium in the bones is now taken back to the bloodstream, and you're left with nothing. Ni kama yani una withdraw your calcium yote from your bones, and what happens is you're left with weak bones that are susceptible to fractures and to breakage. Now, so what happens when you consume D3 is that it will regulate the production of your parathyroid hormone. Another benefit is that it supports the osteoblast function. For those of us who have had the privilege to use the quantum resonance magnetic analyzer, when you look at the rheumatism report or on the QRMA machine, you notice something called the osteocalcine. Now, what happens is that D3 stimulates the osteoblasts, that is the bone forming cells. So that now the bones, we have said the bone is a tissue that constantly keeps on forming itself or reforming itself. So it stimulates bone formation, bone regeneration. That is what it does. Even when someone has gone through an accident and they had an accident and maybe they fractured their bone or they broke their bone, the regeneration of that bone is enhanced when they have D3, when they have sufficient vitamin D3. And then, of course, it enhances the production of osteocalcine. Osteocalcine is a bone strengthening protein. If you take that test on the quantum machine, you realize it will give you an analysis. And one of the things it tells is that maybe your osteocalcine levels are very low. If you have osteoporosis, your osteocalcine levels are very low. So osteocalcine is a bone strengthening protein. It strengthens your bone. Another thing is that it helps the collagen, regenerates the collagen. The collagen is the structural framework for the bones. So we move on to the next, the benefits of vitamin D3. Number two, also it supports the muscle strength. Well, vitamin D3, the cholecalciferol, plays a critical role in muscle function, impacting strength, coordination, and recovery. So, number one, it boosts the muscle protein synthesis. This is how it works. D3 will bind to vitamin D receptors, the VDRs, in the muscle cells, activating genes that regulate the myosin synthesis, which is a key protein for muscle contraction. Then, type 2 is that the fast twitch, or how the muscle responds, the muscle fibers. They are essential for power and explosive movements, how you're able to move around. So the muscle fibers, sorry, they respond, the response that you have in your body when you work out, when you go to the gym, when you exercise. To have that effective, stronger, and much more efficient muscles, you require vitamin D3, and it does exactly that, boosts your muscle protein synthesis. The number two, it enhances calcium dependent contractions. Now, the muscle contractions rely on calcium ions flooding the muscle cells. Vitamin D3 ensures that there's proper calcium absorption by your gut, that is the stomach. Then, calcium signaling within the muscles, that is regulating the troponin and tropomyosin. Another thing is that if you have low vitamin D3, you will have weak contractions. And then this will cause you symptoms like fatigue, it will cause you cramps, it will cause you poor endurance. You cannot have the stamina, you cannot endure for long. And then, of course, there is what we call this, it supports the neuromuscular signaling. This means that vitamin D3 will help your nerves because they require vitamin D3 to transmit signals efficiently to muscles. So, deficiency slows the motor neurons function, leading to delayed reflexes and poor balance, and increasing chances of you falling. You've seen people who fall, you're just walking, you topple over, and no one even caused an accident, nothing pushed you, nothing got in your way, but there are people who lack balance. And I don't know if you've gotten to a point where sometimes you don't have that kind of balance. Now, we look at something else. We look at the health benefits of vitamin D3 capsule. And sorry about that. We look at vitamin D3 capsule. Number three, we said it supports the immune system. Vitamin D3 is a powerful immune modulator, enhancing defenses against infections while preventing excessive inflammation. Now, it arms your immune cells against pathogens. This is something about vitamin D3. We always know it in the context of calcium and bones, but actually, it is an immune system regulator, and it does that by supporting or arming your immune pathogens. Sorry, your immune cells against pathogens. Sorry, and how does it do that? The macrophages and the monocytes, it helps them by triggering their production, and of course the natural antibiotics in your body that puncture bacteria or viral membranes and kills, for example, for TB or influenza, etc. Now, study has shown that hospitalized patients with lower vitamin D3 had a lower mortality with higher, sorry, not lower, with higher vitamin D3 had about 2.5 times lower mortality from COVID-19. It actually boosts your immune system in that way. So it prevents, of course, the overactivation and, of course, reducing cytokine storms. So that's some of the ways it does. And then of course balances the T cell responses. It suppresses the autoimmunity of your body. For example, allergies, allergies as autoimmune problems. So it suppresses the autoimmunity. It prevents your immune system from attacking itself or from attacking your organs. And consequently, we have rheumatism, we have gout, we have arthritis, which is an autoimmune problem. And this is where the immune system attacks your joints. So the vitamin D3 will balance the T cell responses to prevent them from mistakenly attacking your body organs. We look at another benefit. Number 4, it supports cardiovascular health. Vitamin D3 plays a very critical yet underrated role in the cardiovascular function, influencing blood pressure, inflammation, and vascular integrity by one, regulating blood pressure. It suppresses the renin. It inhibits renin, that is a kidney enzyme that triggers high blood pressure via the renin angiotensin system. The factor that it helps to prevent hypertension, a major risk factor for heart attack and stroke. And of course, it improves the endothelial functions, enhances the nitric oxide production, keeping arteries flexible. So when your arteries are going through the hardening that may cause plaque and all, may be caused by plaque and all that, vitamin D3 is going to regulate that stiffness and the inflammation in the arteries. Of course, drives away the chronic inflammation that comes from that. So let us look at health benefits of vitamin D3 again. Number 5, how it supports the brain health. It is a neuroactive hormone that directly influences brain development, cognition, that is the cognitive function, and mental health. Its receptors, the VDRs, are found throughout the brain, and particularly in areas governing memory, that is the temporal lobe, mood, that is the frontal lobe, and of course motor control. Meaning now that is found at the back of your brain, yeah, that controls balance and movement. Now, how does it do that? Number 1, neuroprotection against degeneration. It clears what we call the amyloid plaque and activates immune cells to clear beta amyloid, the toxic protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. And studies have shown that adults who have sufficient vitamin D3 have 40% lower dementia risk and neurology. That is, you can get that from neurology study done in 2022. And of course, reduces oxidative stress and shields neurons from free radicals damage in their pathways. Number 2, it will boost the neurotransmitter production, secreting the serotonin synthesis, that is secreting serotonin, which is a good happy hormone. D3 regulates the tryptophan hydrolysis, the enzyme that converts tryptophan to serotonin. We know serotonin is a happy hormone. If you have low levels of vitamin D3, then you have higher chances of depression, anxiety, and of course, seasonal affective disorder, which is called the SAD. And of course, it also regulates dopamine hormone. These are happy hormones. I call them happy hormones because they help you to lower depression, anxiety, stress, and so on and so forth. So it protects the dopamine neurons and potentially lowering Parkinson disease or Parkinson disease risk. Number 3, it enhances synaptic plasticity, sorry, and memory. Hippocampal growth. Vitamin D3 increases the brain derived neurotrophic factor critical for learning and memory. Deficiency of vitamin D3 will shrink your hippocampus, and this has been confirmed via MRI done on elderly people, and faster neural signaling. It will maintain the myelin sheath integrity and prevent short circuiting of your brain. Yeah. We go to number 4. It prevents the neuroinflammation. It suppresses the microglia overreaction. Chronic brain inflammation is linked to depression, to autism, and if you have sufficient vitamin D3, it calms this response and your brain barrier defenses. Now it tightens the BBB junctions, blocking heavy metals and other toxins from accessing your brain. We look at the serum vitamin D impact on health. The blood serum level of vitamin D3 is closely related to health. Here are official definitions of vitamin D status from the Institute of Medicine. Now, and the Endocrine Society. According to them, you can see the deficiency. We have Institute of Medicine. They have defined the serum of hydroxy 2,5-hydroxy vitamin D level. That is the citrodiol. That is what we called it. The deficiency. Uh, it is not detected in not formally defined. So we focus on sufficiency thresholds. Insufficient when it is about 12 to 20 nanogram per milliliter. Where it's sufficient when it's about more than 20 nanogram per milliliter. Potentially harmful if you take it in excess, and it's about more than 50 or 20 nanogram per milliliter. And then, of course, we have the Endocrine Society. They have also equally given the toxicity risk of having more D3 in your body. And they have given what is sufficient in your body and what counts for insufficiency in your body. Now we look at who needs to use our 5,000 units of vitamin D3. The adults or older people who are 50 years plus, you need to use our 5,000 units of vitamin D3. People with limited sun exposure, if you know that your lifestyle limits you from having the sun exposure, like I have mentioned, then you need vitamin D3. People who are dark skinned individuals, and I believe everyone in this meeting tonight qualifies in this in this category because we are all African, or most of us are Africans, and then obese individuals, people who have a BMI that is above 30, people with malabsorption conditions, people with chronic illnesses and autoimmune diseases. Arthritis is one of them, and other autoimmune allergies, autoimmune problems, lupus, all these problems. People who are vegans or vegetarians, because for vegan and vegetarians you only get the D2, which is less potent, so you require D3, and our supplement is the best. We have people who are hospitalized or institutionalized patients because, again, we talked of the immune regulation from vitamin D3. Precautions of taking vitamin D3 capsule: avoid overdosing. Please avoid overdosing this vitamin D because it can cause or resort to toxicity. Then get your levels checked. By all means, get your levels checked. Take with fat for better absorption. In the beginning, I told you when you take or you administer our vitamin D3 capsule, you need to take with some fatty foods for absorption because we said vitamin D3 is bound by fat. Monitor interactions with medication. If someone is taking other meds or other medication, you may want to monitor how it interacts when they take alongside other medication. Be cautious with certain health conditions. Yes, you have to be very, very cautious and put into consideration what other medical problems someone has before you can give them the product. And of course, this also determines what other products they are taking to determine if they could be at risk of toxicity. Balance with vitamin K, that is vitamin K2, especially at high doses. You have to balance them out. K2 helps to balance out vitamin D3. Watch for side effects. Any notable side effects, you have to be very keen and cautious. Keep monitoring and then watch out for side effects. Then sun exposure and diet considerations. If someone is taking this product, you might want to consider how much you're exposing them to the sun, because again, remember, we don't want it to be in excess in the body. So if they're so much exposed, then you have to consider lowering the dosage for that person. Pregnancy and breastfeeding, again, it is very sensitive to administer anything to someone who is pregnant. And of course, we want to know how it interacts with someone who is lactating or breastfeeding, so that we know the impact it may have on the infant. So it has been quite a good evening. I hope you've learned a lot from tonight. And thank you very much for having me. And I want to give this meeting back to you, Mr. Fred. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doreen, for that wonderfully articulated session. It has been insightful. It's been educational, and I hope that those who are listening have understood the great importance that vitamin D is to our health. Like Madame Doreen mentioned, it can be gotten from the sun direct or from food. But a lot of times, because of many, many reasons, could be the way we dress, where we work, sometimes just the weather, we are not able to get enough of it. And that's why sometimes you you find yourself being ill and you don't understand why. You find yourself with certain conditions, you don't understand why. Could be just vitamin D, but good for you, good for all of us. Greenwald has introduced the vitamin D3, the potent form of vitamin D, and you are able to get it from any of our outlets. Use this information well. Spread it to your customers, to your clients, to your family, and also use this product. Vitamin D is very, very important for your body. We have come to the end of tonight's training, and I just want to thank you all for sticking around through the session, learning as much as you could. I just hope it was not in vain, and that you will use this information for the future. I will unmute all of you so that you can say your goodbyes and your goodnights. But before I do that, I want to welcome you all to tomorrow's Friday evening empowerment session hosted from South Africa, where our distributors from South Africa will be talking about their experience during the just ended China trip in Shanghai and Nanjing and Shanghai. So please care to join us and also experience from their stories how this trip was. Asante sana. See you again next time. You are all unmuted. You can say your goodbyes. Oh, there's someone who has raised their hand. Happy Keller. What can we do for you,
Thank
madam?
you. Thank you. I just wanted somewhere in between. She was talking about osteoporosis, and then she started speaking in your language, and I'd like to. I understood kadogo dogo, something like that. I'd like to know, what is it that you do with those bones? She started off saying you go and you get bones. So I'd like to know, what was that about? What do you do with bone meat?
Madam Doreen, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
You remember that part?
So sorry, I did not know that we had someone who could not some people who are disadvantaged when I use Swahili. I think is when I talked about when you have osteoporosis, is when your bone matrix enlarges. When you have I was given an example of maybe going to the butchery and buying some bones to study what osteoporosis means, and when you find that the bone has large holes, that is osteoporosis, because the bone matrix has enlarged. But when the bone has small holes, which is what I was saying, kidogo, the small holes in the bone symbolize a compact bone matrix, and this means that the bone contains sufficient bone minerals, the calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. All these are present in the bone, and it is a strong bone because the matrix is compact. So that is what I was talking about, that vitamin D3 is the one that helps your bone to retain that bone matrix that is compact, because it holds down all the nutrients in your bone. Make sure that all the nutrients are sufficient in your bone and maintains a proper bone matrix index. That is what I was talking about.
Madam Happy, I hope you are satisfied with the answer.
Pole.
It's okay.
Wajifinya.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for unmuting me.
Ndio unafikiria
Yes,
umejifinya kwa.
I understood that because in you see now, if Doreen hadn't explained that now, I would have thought she was saying you go to the butcher and you buy bones, and when you cook those bones, you know, then you will feel better or whatever. That is what I would have understood had she not explained that now. So now my question is, many Africans, we love going to buy bone meat. So should I be looking at that bone meat to check if the the density of what's inside makes it a good bone? Or, I used to think, oh, when it's got big holes in it, that's the good one. There's fat. But so now when I go and buy those bones, what should I be looking for when I buy my bone meat, which I used to think keeps me healthy?
So when it comes to the bone, when you're buying bone for calcium, for calcium purposes, because you want to make soup to get calcium, really the animal bone has no problem. I was putting the example to try and symbolize what happens when we say the for human beings we have osteoporosis. To make you understand what osteoporosis means, is that your bone enlarges and contains those big holes, and those big holes are now what we call osteoporosis. So the kind of bone that you buy has really no correlation to what I was talking about, because you're bound to get the bone minerals anyway, whether it has large matrix or not. From the animal bone you're bound to get. But what I was talking is making you understand what osteoporosis is, because for most people we don't understand what osteoporosis is, what osteoarthritis is, what is the difference, and what is rheumatism and all this. So I was putting it in a way that you understand that when you tell someone your bone is enlarging, your bone matrix index has enlarged, what it means. The example I was giving is how a bone matrix appears when you now go and check from any bone, maybe an animal bone. It will show you what a bone matrix, or rather an enlarged bone matrix, means. So you can enjoy whatever bone you buy.
Okay, thank you so much. I have learned a lot about bones today, and I thought, being Black, I've got a husband who's white, and he's when we go to the beach in summer, he's always taking vitamin D. And me, I keep on thinking, black people, we don't need vitamin D. But now I have learned, I'm going to go through the slides I made, the screenshots that I made to really reflect on myself and look at that vitamin D again. Thank you so, so much. That was an awesome presentation. And you guys take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you even for the interaction. I know there are some people maybe who were curious about it also, but were not able to ask. But through your interaction, I'm sure they've been able to get the answers that they needed. So thank you very much to everyone. Wishing you all a good night, a wonderful weekend. See you tomorrow at the Friday Empowerment. Madam Happy, you can reach out to me and I can share with you the slides. And even this presentation has been recorded. Anyone who would wish to have it, just get in touch with me and I will share it with you. Asante sana. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good night, Doreen.
Bye.
Good night,
Dorothy.
sir.
Doris, William Ogwari, good night.
Good night.
Esther
Good night,
Gesisha, good
everyone.
night.